going on, YouTube? RDAPDAN here. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope you guys are all getting ready for the awesome new year of 2019. Some of you may not feel like 2019 is going to be awesome if you're getting ready to head off to federal prison, but I promise you, it will get better. We're going to let a few more people join us as we get ready here to talk about Captain Grimes, a.k.a. Captain Grimy. He is getting ready to get sentenced January 9th of 2019. So, in preparation for that, I thought, what better we could do than to celebrate and what we can do to maybe help to make sure he gets the deserved sentence. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to join. Friday night, a lot of you are probably going out getting ready for, the holidays and everything else. So I don't imagine too many people to be joining us. However, nonetheless, these videos do stream and they are recorded, so you'll be able to watch the video later. So if anybody's in the room, let me know who's in here and make sure audio and video and all that fun stuff is working. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to join in. You can join me in the calming sounds of RDAPDAN sipping coffee. I've gotten a lot of comments on how you guys hate the way I drink coffee. I apologize. It's how I drink coffee. There's nothing I can do about that. You guys are going to have to work with me. I'm doing what I can. Do you understand? Who's in the room? Let's get a thumbs up. Let's also get some subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so now. Hit the subscribe button. Also press the little bell that gives you your notifications, and make sure you turn on your notifications so you know when we are going live. Captain Grimes. This guy is an actual monster, and there's been some development in the situation with Captain Grimy that we're going to talk about in today's video. And we're just waiting patiently for you guys to join us to come see what we're going to talk about with Captain Grimes. So, Captain Grimes has tons of sexual allegations and sexual misconduct and having sex with female inmates while he was the captain at Alderson Federal Prison in West Virginia. And he pled guilty. There's actually a link in the description of this video to most of the court documents that I've pulled off of Pacer. So you can go ahead and log in. You click on the link. It's free download. It gives you access to my Google Drive where I have all the documents stored. So you can go ahead and click on the link in the description of this video to receive those documents. That goes more into his plea agreement. It's got information in there on his sentencing memorandum, which is a lot of the information that we're going to be looking at. I received a really interesting call, an email, I should say. I received an email today from an attorney who is representing a victim of Captain Grimes, who is still in Alderson, West Virginia, who was not the same type of victim as a lot of the other women that Captain Grimy preyed upon. This individual was actually raped against her will, forcefully raped by Captain Grimes, and from my understanding, on several occasions. And I'm not so sure that the court is completely aware of this because the plea agreement they're offering him, potentially Captain Grimes, Jerrod Grimes, may only end up serving around 24 months. So there's also some information in the description of this video for the U.S. attorney, the USA, who's prosecuting Captain Grimes. Please, guys, utilize and abuse the phone number. I've linked the phone number to the U.S. attorney, and I've also linked the email address to the U.S. attorney so you guys can call up, voice your opinion, raise hell. If you or anybody you know has been a victim of Captain Grimes, I don't care how little you think it is, now is the time to voice your opinion because the government is seeking 10 years. That's what they're going after. However, Captain Grimes is trying to fight that because currently his base offense level is, I believe, a level 16, which carries guideline ranges from 21 to 27 months. Now, the government is trying to give him an enhancement for vulnerable victim enhancement, which if they are able to approve that, it would be a 2-point increase on his base offense level, but it doesn't drastically change it. It takes it from 21 to 27 to, I think it was like 24 to 33 or something to that effect. Not nearly enough time for the damage that this monster has caused. I've received a lot of mail about this, a lot of questions. I get emails all of the time. And what blows my mind is I've actually gotten a lot of emails from people that have spent time in prison that ask me why I'm going against what they think I should be going against. Meaning, why am I trying to see somebody get a harsher sentence? Regardless of my own, look, I did what I did. I put myself into a situation that allowed me to go to federal prison. Granted, at the time of getting in trouble and going through it in pretrial, I wasn't in the best space to take full accountability for what I did. I was definitely not ready to handle what was coming down my way. However, that's Shelly calling me. Let's tell Shelly we're... Hey, Shelly, you're live on YouTube. So we're doing an update to Captain Grimes. Is it okay if I see you when you get home?
Yes, that is fine. I just needed to know if we had NyQuil.
I don't know.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. She's not feeling well, so she wanted to know if we have NyQuil. So she's going to have to go check and find out. I hate that my computer links to my phone. I turn off my ringer on my phone and my computer rings. So who's in the room with us? Can I get a thumbs up? I don't see any comments yet, which is weird. Let's see. Live chat. Maybe that's why. Are you guys able to chat? I don't even know. Maybe something's up with the chat feature. Usually we've received at least a hello, Dan. How are you doing? All messages are visible. Okay, it says all messages are visible. So if you guys want to chat, let me know so I know you guys are here and can hear me. Make sure I'm not talking to myself. I do that on my days off. I don't need to do that when you guys are watching. What did Captain Grimes do? Okay, Underground West, how are you doing? We do have other videos. If you look through my video history, I will actually make a playlist specifically giving the man the moment in fame he needs, Captain Grimes. Well, Captain Grimes was a captain at Alderson Federal Women's Prison, and he was charged with sexual misconduct with several inmates within the prison, actually having sex with them. A female inmate cannot give consent to have sex with anybody while they're in prison. So some of the women, even though it was sexual misconduct and having sex or inappropriate conversations, whatever it may have been in certain situations, even though some of the women may have been okay with it, they were not allowed to give that type of authorization, being he was the captain of the prison. But there's another situation now that is arising with a major lawsuit, and from my understanding, the prison's offered a settlement, which the client that we're not going to disclose any information on here has decided to not take, because it's just not, its value doesn't compensate what this person's going to go through just in psychological and medical. It doesn't cover the bill. So the BOP is aware. They are taking accountability. They are admitting that it happened. And this was forcible rape. This was rape. This was forcible rape, meaning there's an incident where there was a female inmate there that was actually raped against her will on several occasions. And what they're trying to give him an enhancement on is a vulnerable victim enhancement, which would give him a 2-point enhancement, which still doesn't do a whole lot. Right now, Grimes is trying to ask for the low end of the guideline range, which would be like 24 months. Fucking ridiculous. This man raped women in a prison, and he was held to a higher standard. He was somebody that took an oath. He's been in the military. Now, this isn't his first time, and that's the other thing, is he's trying to portray that this is his first offense. He's got no criminal history, no criminal conduct. Yes, that's technically true, but this is just the first time this asshole has been caught. I've actually received a phone call from a family member of Captain Grimes, who, unfortunately, I spoke to her again today, is not willing to come forward and speak on her situation. But she was sexually molested by Captain Grimes, who was a relative to her several years ago back in New York where they lived. Captain Grimes molested and raped his own family member, and she never came forward about it. Now, one of the big issues that the attorney I spoke with today is having with this whole situation, and why she really believes that there should be a higher level of accountability, specifically in situations like this with Mr. Grimes, is when somebody is becoming a CO or a correctional officer and moving through the ranks up into, in this situation, a captain, what type of psychological testing is done? Clearly, this man is a sexual deviant predator who cannot help himself. Just couldn't say no. He tries to say in his sentencing memorandum that the reason why he did this was he had moved. Now his wife, Captain Grimes' wife, she works within the prison system. She's actually, from my understanding, I believe a correctional officer at Coleman Penitentiary. So he has a wife who since left him. She no longer wants anything to do with this scumbag. She works at Coleman. That's where I went. I spent my time at Coleman. She's at the penitentiary over at Coleman. I don't know if it's Pen 1 or Pen 2, but that's where she's working. So when Captain Grimes took the position at Alderson, his family didn't go with them. So he left his family behind, went to Alderson, tried saying he couldn't get along with any of his coworkers, he didn't have any friends, so he started engaging in intimate relationships with the inmates, and he was seeking the attention, and he knows what he did was wrong. Bullshit. He's only saying that because this jerk-off got caught. He's been doing this. He's got a long line of history that dates back years and years and years to New York, where he was doing the same type of behavior with his own family. So this guy needs to not just come off of the street. The government wants to see the judge give him 10 years. Now, Captain Grimes is trying to argue this and say, well, my guideline range only calls for 21 to 27 months. Thank God these guidelines are advisory and they're not holding the judge to where he has to sentence within these guidelines. Just like this works to our benefit all of the time, right? How many clients have you guys seen come on my show that received a probation sentence where their guidelines were anywhere from 30 months to 60 months to 80 months was what the guideline was advising, but the judge departed. Just like the judge departed, he can also go up. And the government wants to see Captain Grimes receive a 10-year sentence minimum to not just punish this man for what he did, but to send a message. If you work in a position of power, and you are taking advantage of that position, and you are creating victims within your workplace, he has caused such a catastrophic, unacceptable series of events that this has ruined lives of the individuals that he manipulated, their family members. Just imagine if you had a wife that was in prison, helpless as it is. You already can't really get a hold of the prison when you need to. You're already dealing with enough hoops. Now you find out somebody who's supposed to be held to a higher standard, Captain Grimes, who is the person that deals with any type of sexual complaint that came through from that prison, it would go to Captain Grimes. So here's the man that's actually being the predator, going after individuals, going after females within the prison system. How are they supposed to feel safe? Who knows how many of these women said yes or did something with him because they were fearful if they didn't, he was going to make their life an extra living hell. I have no sympathy for this guy at all. And it's not because I went to prison and I'm out to give it. I'm not looking to give the middle finger to the prison system. I've met so many amazing people within the BOP. I've met so many amazing people within U.S. probation. I've met so many amazing people within the prosecutor's office. I've even had some amazing conversations with judges. I'm going to be having another amazing conversation with an expert next Wednesday. Don't forget to tune into this. I should have talked about this earlier. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be interviewing a specialist on the First Step Act, the prison reform bill that was just passed. President Trump signed off on it. We've got so many questions coming in about this bill. How's it going to affect people? When's it going to affect people? What's it really going to do? Just from A to Z, we're going to have a specialist on next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. I will be putting out some alerts, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. But Captain Grimes, he knew better, and now he's trying to snake his way out of this. I've actually got a little video here. Actually, let me read some of these. Hello from Australia. What's going on? Joanne, how are you doing? Is he going to federal prison or state prison? Jazz, I think it's Jace M. Outdoors. He's going to go to federal prison. This is a federal situation. We don't know where he's going to go yet. He'll go to a low security more than likely. Unfortunately, he's probably not going to have that rough of a time, but that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to, here, let me let you read some of this stuff. So this is the sentencing memorandum. It looks like this was just released, I believe, today. I pulled this off of Pacer. Anything that I'm showing you right now, guys, in the description of this video, there's a link to read all of these documents. You can download them, do your own research, formulate some questions. There's also a phone number in the link of the description where you can actually call the prosecutor's office. So if you want to voice your opinion and you think that 24 months is ridiculous, guys, I'm telling you, there's an email address and a phone number. Leave voicemails, send emails. Hopefully the prosecutor's got a heart and he will print this stuff up and he'll read it to the judge that there's many people out here that want to see justice served on this scumbag. So let's read a little bit of this sentencing memorandum. And look, RDAPDAN's still here with you up in the corner. So the defendant's sentencing memorandum. The defendant, Jerrod Grimes, by counsel, blah, 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 blah. Mr. Grimes maintains his objection to the two-level vulnerable victim impact enhancement. And the video is going kind of fast, guys. So all inmates FPC Alderson were under Mr. Grimes' custodial. So again, I'm just highlighted the stuff in green so you can read it. Government must establish that the victims in this case were usually vulnerable for reasons unrelated to their custodial status in order for the enhancement to apply. Rather than attempting to meet the standard, the government argues that Mr. Grimes' position of authority as captain renders all inmates in his care sufficiently vulnerable. And then there's some of the U.S. subchapters. The government briefly notes a second potential ground of enhancement, inmate G's religion. In her victim impact statement, inmate G alleges that Mr. Grimes abused her in part, but not exclusively on the basis of my religion. PSR, so it talks about that in the PSR, and we'll talk about what she's talking about in a minute. Inmate G is because their name has not been released yet, so that's what they're referring to this inmate G. However, is on individual characteristics that they render a victim particularly susceptible to the defendant's criminal conduct. Membership in religious groups cannot, standing alone, make victims vulnerable for purpose of the enhancement. The record is devoid of evidence that inmate G's religious beliefs rendered her particularly susceptible to abusive sexual contact. To the contrary, inmate G made numerous statements indicating that her religious beliefs were an impediment to and not impetus for such activities. See, inmate G's asserted she repeatedly told Grimes that she should not be doing this due to her being a devout Muslim, and Grimes raped her anyway. The government's final argument in support of this vulnerable victims enhancement is that Mr. Grimes turned his predatory attention to inmate H following her alleged involvement with another FPC federal prison Alderson staff member. The government does not elaborate on this point, and neither does the PSR nor the addendum utilize this argument in support of the enhancement. On the current record, the government's passing reference to inmate H falls short of providing the requisite fact-based explanation as to how inmate H's previous experience rendered her usually vulnerable to the offense conduct at issue of the case, in this case. In sum, Mr. Grimes maintains that the government has failed to establish that the 6 victims in this case were usually or unusually vulnerable within the meaning of the U.S. Subchapter 3A 1.1. The government and the PSR focus incorrectly on Mr. Grimes. And let it scroll down there a little bit. It's going slow. Focus on Mr. Grimes' job responsibilities instead of the victim's individual characteristics and susceptibilities. If the court sustains this objection, Mr. Grimes' advisory guideline would be 21 to 27 months based on a total offense level 16, criminal history category 1. Depending on the court's resolution of the foregoing objection, Mr. Grimes' advisory guideline range will recommend a term of imprisonment between 21 and 27 months or 27 and 33 months. Mr. Grimes respectfully submits that a sentence within the advisory guideline range of 21 to 27 months would be sufficient, but not greater than necessary to achieve the statutory sentencing purpose. The history and characteristics of Mr. Grimes. Mr. Grimes, currently 40 years old. For nearly 4 decades, he's lived a law-abiding and productive life that would be dedicated to public service. Despite his difficult and often tumultuous childhood, he graduated from high school, attended college, served in the military, started a family, and secured a promising career with the Bureau of Prisons. He spent approximately 17 years with the U.S. Army Reserves, served 3 deployments in Iraq, worked as a first responder during a number of national emergencies, including 9/11 and Fort Hood. Let's keep this thing going. Come on, computer, go faster. And accumulated numerous medals, ribbons, and decorations for his dedicated service. He ascended the ranks of the BOP, working his way from correctional officer at the FCI Fort Dix to, at the end of his career, captain at FPC Alderson, all while now estranged wife, who also works for the BOP, were raising a growing family. Mr. Grimes spent close to 15 years working for the BOP, and his employment at FPC Alderson was his first experience with all-female low-security facility. When he accepted the job, he moved to West Virginia alone. His wife, employed by USP Coleman, stayed in Florida with their children. Mr. Grimes had a troubling fitting in his new job. He was living on campus in an unfamiliar state, far from his friends and family, and he felt increasingly isolated by his coworkers. His recurrent struggles with depression, insomnia, and post-traumatic stress disorder began to flare. As months wore on, he turned to some of the inmates for conversation and company. Intoxicated by the attention, he allowed his boundaries to disappear. Before long, he had become someone he did not recognize. He deeply regrets his behavior and recognizes that his actions were inexcusable. The need for sentence imposed to reflect the seriousness of the offense, promote respect for the law, provide just punishment, afford adequate deterrence, and protect the public. Mr. Grimes committed serious offenses and, in the suffering, serious consequences. As a first-time felon, 6 times over, he has permanently lost many important civil rights, and he will be limited in terms of his future employment, housing, and educational opportunities. As a sex offender, he will be a social pariah. Let's keep it going down. For the rest of his life, the stigma imposed for violating of a sex statute. This case is Mr. Grimes' first encounter with the criminal justice system. With 0 criminal history points, he is in a rare category of federal offenders, bullshit, a category that statistically is the least likely to recidivate, which is also bullshit. Mr. Grimes will also be subject to stringent post-release conditions and federal and state sex offender requirements for many years to come. Given all these factors, a lengthy sentence of incarceration will not further the goal of protecting the public by any appreciable measure. The government argues that a sentence of 10 years, many times over any iteration of the advisory guideline range, is necessary to deter others from engaging in like conduct. Absolutely true, in my opinion. And then we're going to read the summary here. I think there's a little bit more to go. Sorry, guys. I know you hate the boring text videos, but video like this, it's important so you guys know what we're getting into here. Favor longer sentences. Oh, where we go? Favor longer sentences over shorter ones to achieve deterrence. Crime and justice. A review of research. Blah blah blah. Every major survey. The evidence has concluded that increases in severity of punishments do not yield significant, if any, marginal deterrent. Moreover, the extensive statutory regulatory regimen surrounding the Prison Rape Elimination Act provides an additional measure of deterrence and clarity to the significant consequences of engaging in such conduct. Regardless of the custodial sentence this court imposes, Mr. Grimes has lost quite literally everything that he has valued in his life. He is a sex offender, a 6-time felon. His wife left him. He lost his career, his retirement, and his semblance of financial security. He has disgraced his name. He may lose his right to a military funeral due to his status as a sex offender. These crushing life-changing consequences that Mr. Grimes will have to deal with every day for the rest of his life are both significant punishment to him and a deterrent to others. Sounds like a fucking country song. Who cares? Just because you screwed up and you got caught does not mean that you should just get that light sentence and that's it. In conclusion, the foregoing reasons, Mr. Grimes respectively submits a sentence within the advisory guidelines of 21 to 27 months would be sufficient but not greater than necessary to achieve the statutory sentencing purpose. Mr. Grimes is a veteran, a career public servant with no criminal history. He has dedicated his life to serving his country and supporting his family. He has never before served a term of incarceration as a sex offender and former correctional officer. His time in federal custody will be both dangerous and isolated. Mr. Grimes does not intend to call fact witness at sentencing, although he reserves the right to do so. He anticipates that the hearing will last approximately 2 hours. So, what do you guys think about that? I think the fact that he's trying really, really hard to minimize or over maximize that he's going to be in some kind of a danger while he's in federal prison. Dude, that's what you should have fucking thought about before you allowed your sex addiction to ruin so many people's lives. You used your power to rape somebody, man. If the prison only gives... Look, we see guys that get caught with some pictures, child pornography. Not saying that's good, not saying that they should get less or more time, not justifying in any way, but I'm saying if you're looking at a picture is one thing. This man took his power, his position of power, and actually raped somebody while they were in prison. Raped against their will. Physically raped them against their will. And this person that he did this to was a devoted Muslim who now this is also greatly against their religion. So it's creating all kinds of catastrophic trauma in their mind on, even though they didn't agree to do this, they were forcefully taken. But how is this going to affect their religion, how they're viewed within their religion? This man is just completely stomped all over people. And he's asking a fair sentence of 21 to 27 months. Knowing there's good time, potentially, I don't know if this idiot thinks he's going to get into RDAP or not, but all kinds of First Step Act things coming out that somehow this guy might get benefit on. And what's he going to spend a year or less in jail? That is not sending a deterrent message through the prison system. 10 years? That might send a message. That might get the point across. This guy was not a brand new young buck that just got into the system, that just became a CO. This guy has been within the system for decades. And he was doing this to people back in the day where he used to live in New York. His own family, he was doing the same thing to. Violating people's privacy, their rights, their bodies. I hope he gets the book thrown at him. And I don't say that lightly because I'm not a big advocate on locking people up and throwing away the key. But a guy like this is not going to learn his lesson in just 24 months. I don't think so. Reading some messages. Underground West, Captain Grimes, a low-life predator. You're absolutely right. And it looks like there's a very good opportunity that I will be doing an interview possibly with the attorney that I spoke to today that represents one of the clients that's in Alderson right now who has been victimized ridiculously, horribly by Captain Grimes. I had a really good conversation with her today. She really seems to actually have a lot of passion for her client. You don't see that every day with attorneys. Speaking with her, it was more like speaking with the family, the inmate's family. A lot of times when you speak to family members, you hear that deep level of concern and wanting to see the right thing happen and getting justice served on either side of the spectrum. When I spoke to the attorney today who's representing this individual in prison, she was very passionate about getting justice served for her client, which could be a ripple effect to open the door for many others that have been taken advantage in a situation like this. So I'm very, very proud of whoever this, I don't know who the individual is yet. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know their name, but I'm very proud that the fact that they're willing to come forward, because look, there's a lot of shame that's involved with any type of rape, alleged rape, violating, shame and fear. All of these things enter your mind. How are people going to view me? No one's ever going to see me the same. I'm damaged goods. I don't want anybody to know about it. And that's been the issue that I've been dealing with because I've spoken to a few people that have reached out to me. They tell me their story, but they don't want to go any further with that. And it's like, look, I love that you called me and you shared this information with me, but I can't do anything if you're not willing to take it to the next step. So keep an eye out for the news for Captain Grimes. Michael Smith, we all have made mistakes. Granted, Michael Smith, people do make mistakes. However, the mistakes that some people make are unforgivable. Several rapes, maybe, it's up to God to forgive. Maybe someday if this man ever makes it anywhere, I can't forgive somebody to that level. If I were ever to receive a call from somebody that was looking for assistance in a situation, that's why it would be really hard to be an attorney. You have to sometimes put your morals to the side because you possibly have to defend somebody. Everybody deserves the same defense that everybody else deserves, at least here in the United States. But morally, it would be really hard for me to try to defend somebody that has done this to so many different people. The family member that I spoke to that he did this to, I mean, she's damaged beyond repair. So damaged and so fearful, still fearful that this guy is somehow going to come back after her. She wanted to really come forward, but she just didn't have the courage to do so. So, you know, there's different levels of crime out there, and there's different levels of how we view it, how we see people. Raping somebody, forcefully taking somebody against their will, I just can't have any love for them. I can't look past that. You know, if it was one person, and it came out to be that it wasn't true, but we're talking about several people that he's done this to. Aaron Solomon, my girlfriend is in Alderson. This was one thing I feared when she was going in. Grimes has made them more strict at Alderson, so hopefully this stops happening. I think right now Alderson's definitely under the radar, specifically when it comes to PREA, which is preventative rape, whatever it is. The PREA is the preventative rape. If you see something, say something type of a situation. And I really believe that this situation has really brought some light specifically into Alderson, hopefully throughout other female prisons as well. At the same time, it's crazy how hush-hush this story is. I've received emails and phone calls, and I don't want to put names out there, from the BOP asking me to remove the videos that I've released on Captain Grimes, saying it puts the prison in a bad light. It's like, no way. The BOP, if you look at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and when somebody gets in trouble, when they're getting indicted by the federal government, they throw press release after press release. The news is all over it. They don't want to hear the other person's side of the story. It's just a slander. And I'm not saying that some of the stuff isn't true, but if you're going to do it for one, do it for your own as well. The fact that Captain Grimes was kept very quiet, because I think it's an embarrassment to the BOP. What type of training was this man given? What type of psych evaluations were given? And the attorney I spoke to today brought up a good point. When you're when you're taking on a position of power like this, where you really control and dictate so many other lives that are at your mercy, what type of evaluations are done on your psyche to make sure? Are they talking to your family? Are they talking to your neighbors? You know, maybe if they invested a little time and resource into really evaluating somebody before they allow them to step foot into a position like this, maybe there would have been some red flags that would have concerned the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, before they allowed Captain Grimes to have a free reign to go in and just pluck out any girl that he thought was pretty, or that gave him a pretty smile, or him and his attention-seeking demeanor. This man is a pariah. He does not deserve a short sentence. He does not deserve a second chance, in my opinion. In my opinion, he's had several chances. He's just a sexual deviant predator, and I hope he gets what's coming to him. That's all I really got to say about that. Like I said, there's a link in the description of this video that will allow you to print up all the documents from his plea agreement. I think there's 2 documents in there about the plea. We've got his sentencing memorandum in there. There's a couple of things in the folder. You guys feel free to go in there, download it, use it at your own convenience, make your own video about it. But again, if you have been victimized by anybody, by anyone, if you've been victimized anywhere, in any prison, if you're a female or a male and you've had interaction with staff where you felt victimized, whether you're raped or you were sexually assaulted and you did not come forward, if you do want to reach out to me and see if there's anything that can be done, we can definitely shed a little light on any situation where somebody's being done wrong. We do it all the time. We hold each other accountable, right? Every person that I have on my channel, every client that I help that's going through the prison system, one of the biggest things that we focus on is what you did wrong, how you could have made better choices, and how you're going to use your situation to better yourself. So I'm not saying that Captain Grimes, Jerrod Grimes, can't become a better person from this, but there may not be any forgiveness for what he's done. And when you ask for forgiveness, you're not doing it because you necessarily need people to forgive you. You're doing it to forgive yourself. So if you ever reach a place in your life, Captain Grimes, where you've received peace and you've got rid of your sins, you're asking forgiveness, you're doing it for yourself, you can't expect anybody to forgive you. If I would have a hard time forgiving somebody that did something like this to somebody I cared about. You've destroyed many, many lives, and I hope the judge sees that. Now, JC, I don't wish anything bad on him while he's in prison, other than to really have time to think about what he's done. But in a lot of cases, when people that are molested, raped at a young age or at any age, sometimes that's what breaks them into becoming that same type of a monster later on in their own life. We have a lot of clients that are going through situations where maybe they have sex offenses, maybe it's child pornography cases. And when you really do some research into a lot of these clients, a lot of them have had situations in their past where they've had things done to them. That doesn't make what they did okay. It's not justifying it. But by having other inmates do that to him while he's in prison, who knows how he's going to return. At some point, the man will be released, and if he doesn't find a way to deal with his issues, he's just likely going to do it again. When you have that type of an addiction, because let's call it what it is, it's an addiction. He knows it's wrong in his head. He knows he can't be going around to female inmates and trying to have sex with them, whether in his mind it's consensual or not. An inmate within the prison system cannot give consent for sex. And then he took it a step further and actually raped somebody. So clearly he's got some misfiring cylinders going on upstairs to where he needs some deep, deep psychological help, which hopefully the Bureau of Prison finds a place to put him that will give him that sort of help that he needs. I don't think he's going to be in too much fear for his life at the type of spots he's going to be going. I don't think he's going to have a huge fan club of where he goes. He's going to have a large name tag wherever he goes. His story's pretty big within the prison system. So don't know how his prison stay is going to be, but I would like to see the 10 years given versus 24 months. I received a 42-month sentence, and I didn't rape anybody. I was looking at my guidelines, had me looking at 20 plus years. We need to somehow equalize this federal guideline system on, predatorial. This is a type of a person that is a danger to society. And what they're trying to say is because he's a first-time offender, they're saying first-time offenders are less likely to recommit the same type of crime. Well, let's look at all of first-time offenders and then break it down to take all of the first-time rapists who are released from prison and look at their statutes on the recidivism on that. Now, if you're tax fraud, mortgage fraud, pure white-collar fraud, yeah, there's a good chance that you're not going to commit that same type of crime. And I know a lot of people hate to see it when white-collar guys get off easy, but the reality is I deal with white-collar guys on a regular basis, and a lot of them really did not understand the consequences of their actions. They didn't realize what they were doing could lead them to prison. Everybody likes to jump down the throat of the white-collar guy and say, you stole millions from people, you've ruined lives. Yes, that does happen. But not every white-collar case is somebody ripping off a ton of people. Sometimes it's they did their taxes wrong, or they pissed off the government somehow, or they found a way to beat the system for their own good, and the government doesn't like that, and the government comes down heavy on them. Doesn't make it okay what they did, but there's not always tons and tons of victims where people are getting railroaded by white-collar criminals. So not every white-collar criminal should have such a harsh sentence. Situations with rape and child endangerment and things like that, you're talking a different breed of individual right there. Michael, you got a good point. You definitely got a good point. And that's why, look, basically Michael Smith is commenting saying, if you look at female aggression and what female, a guy gets weak, whatever happens, but somebody in a situation like that is held to such a higher standard that maybe if precautions were taken earlier on in Captain Grimes' career, prior to his career, maybe there would have been some warning signs saying, you know what? This guy seems like a good guy. He's done everything he's supposed to do. He's served our military. He's been out there helping, but we don't think that he'd be best suited to be left alone with a bunch of women. We hear about stuff happening like this with teachers, high school teachers, college professors, things like that with the female students. We all know people can get weak and they can make slip-ups and, they can do things that they shouldn't be doing. But when you start crossing the line to that extent, where you have somebody that is already at an all-time low, probably wouldn't give you the same type of attention you're receiving if you weren't in a position of power. That's where you have to hold somebody accountable. And maybe this will create a domino effect to where the prison system, the Bureau of Prisons, other corporations, maybe they start looking into how they can try to spot situations like this earlier on in someone's career. And it's all about maybe micromanaging a little bit better when it comes to the spectrum of how are we deciding who we're hiring, what type of psyche evaluations are they undergoing before you allow somebody to control the lives of women. To me, there's just things that could have been done ahead of time. I do agree he deserves the most, and also it's rape regardless if they wanted it in prison. Tough to know if he truly forced himself on people, but it doesn't matter, honestly. You're absolutely right, Aaron, and that's the whole case in point on this, is regardless whether it's consensual in his mind or not, there is no such thing as a female giving consent. So if it was the other way around, if this was happening out on the street and he was to rape somebody, this would have made some pretty big news, at least in his local area. The local newspapers had problems finding information or getting. I mean, I've had local newspapers from near Alderson, over in where Alderson's located, reaching out to me to get information. I'm in Washington State, clear across the damn country. So the BOP has really done what they could to keep a little hush-hush on this. But we here at Federal Prison Time Consulting, we do our best to expose anybody that needs to be exposed. Jace is saying, do you think he did the same thing that charged it with when it was in the military? Possibly. Who knows? God, this guy's poor wife and his kids and his family. Imagine what they're going through right now. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm associated to this guy. No matter what we do, we're associated to him. And that was another client calling right now. So guys, I'm going to wrap up this video. I will be doing an update video when he does get sentenced. We'll find out what he was sentenced to, so keep an eye out for that video. Let's hope it's more than 24 months. If it is 24 months, we take what we can get, but damn it, that's not justice served. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please, guys, take a minute, subscribe to my channel, like our stuff, text the word YouTube to 76626. We'll send out a text notification letting you know what's going on. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Friday. I hope you guys are really going to do your best to have an awesome and happy New Year's. I know a lot of you have got a lot of things coming up in the next few months, sentencing, PSR preparation. We do what we can to help people above and beyond what we feel any other consulting service offers. You may be gauging the level of service on what somebody charges. Just because somebody's trying to charge you $15,000 to $20,000 for prison consulting services does not necessarily mean you're getting what you pay for. Definitely, before you decide on who you're going to hire, do yourself a favor, do your homework, do your due diligence, give us a call. You can text me at 509-434-4695. You can email me at RDAPDAN.com. You can come visit us on the web at RDAPDAN.com. We love every single one of you. Every day is a new day. As always, people helping people, communities method, guys. Keep it real. I'm RDAPDAN, and I will see you guys in a couple days. I'm out of here if I can find my mouse. Go check out Grimes' other videos if you want to know more about the Grimes. Later. Bye, guys.